A sitcom episode from 1980 that has a bisexual character in it? I was prepared for homophobia, but that's not what I got.
Remember the night I came up to you two at the bar, I said, "Are you two together?"
Yeah, I told you we weren't.
Well, she wasn't the one I was after, Tony.
In this episode of Taxi, Elaine needs a rebound. We don't know why she's lost her relationship. Heck, we didn't know she was in one to begin with. But that's not the point. The point is she's hurting and the gang wants to help her. The guys don't mock her, they don't ignore her, they try to help in their own weird, clumsy, deeply invasive way. But they try, and that effort sets off a chain reaction that nobody was expecting. Misplaced intentions, and a huge conundrum for Tony. Because sometimes the hardest part of caring for someone isn't knowing what to do, it's knowing whether doing anything at all might make things worse. And with that in mind, welcome back to The Rank. I'm John, and today we're going to be ranking the 4th episode of the 3rd season of Taxi titled Elaine's Strange Triangle. Written by David Lloyd and directed by James Burrows. Alright, let's see how this one stacks up, starting with the episode overview. So we open the episode with Elaine being a sad sack. She's out to dinner with the guys from the garage, except Louie, of course, and they're all trying to cheer her up. Why? Well, apparently her relationship ended, though it's unclear exactly what happened. And Alex thinks that Elaine should hop immediately right back into the saddle. That's his idea to get her out of her doldrums. And the rest of the guys readily agree, especially Latka, though he doesn't seem to like the idea that it should be someone she doesn't know, or as Jim suggests, a stranger. Latka is going to defensively say, maybe she doesn't know any strangers, which is funny in and of itself. But then Jim responds by saying, well, you've got all the answers. But before we get any resolution to this, Bobby is going to enter the scene excitedly saying that he just had an audition and he knows he's going to get the part. And while he's explaining what the part is, we're going to follow Tony and Elaine as they go to the bar to get some more drinks. And this is where we get to meet Kirk Bradshaw. He's actually going to go directly up to Elaine and Tony and ask if they're together. At first, Tony's like, yeah, but then realizes this could be the perfect stranger for Elaine. He even asks Kirk, do you come here often? And when he finds out what Kirk does, which is an investment analyst, he's going to turn around to Elaine and be like, wow. But Elaine is already walking back to the table, not even noticing. So Tony's going to ask Kirk if he's married. And when he finds out he's not, Tony's like, great, I got somebody for you to meet. So he brings Kirk to the table, and the guys are all being super obvious about wanting to set Kirk and Elaine up. Now, this scene could have easily been an eye roll situation, but it turned out really cute and funny. They hype this guy up, and Elaine is clearly enjoying the way they're treating him. He actually ends up saying he's an art buff, and they're like, ooh la la. Eventually, even though the guys have already done it, Kirk is eventually going to ask out Elaine. I mean, he'd love to show her his drawings. And Elaine's like, okay, let's set something up. I'll give you my number. But the guys are real eager to give her number to him. Bobby's writing it down, and they're all like yelling out the numbers, 555, like all different guys are saying different numbers and everything. And eventually they do get it written down. And right after they get it written down and handed to him, all of a sudden Jim starts saying the number really slowly. 555. Jim, we got it. After this, we head to the next scene and we're back in the garage. Elaine is singing and happy, and clearly things are going well between her and Kirk. But Bobby's like, it's not just the singing. He's noticed someone going around whistling and giggling like a schoolgirl. Then immediately, Jim defensively is like, that's a lie. Like, it's not you, Jim. I love Jim. But Elaine's really happy. She even tells the guys that they picked a better one for her than she usually picks for herself. And all that credit is going straight to Mr. Banta. And speaking of Mr. Banta, he's going to get a phone call from his gym while Louie's handing out cabs. Apparently, he owes a towel fee for April. And as Tony's going to head over to the phone, he's going to be like, that's bullshit because I didn't even shower in April. So because Louie's giving out cabs to everybody and Tony's on the call, everybody's gone except Tony. And Kirk walks in. Unluckily for him, he runs into Louie first, who proceeds to ask him if he's hooked up with Elaine yet. As in, has he banged her? Which is a really weird thing to do, Louie. But to Kirk's credit, he refuses to discuss it with Louie. Kirk does seem nervous though, and we're gonna find out why. He has something he needs to tell Elaine, but can't figure out how to do it. So he's gonna tell Tony. So what's this burning thing that he's gotta get off his chest? Well, he's gonna say to Tony, remember when I asked you guys if you guys were together when I came into the bar? And Tony's like, yeah. Well, it wasn't her that I was interested in. Now, I have to say that I'm surprised that they were addressing this in 1980, but more power to them. And they handled it decently well, with Tony having the realization of what he's talking about being particularly funny. But he didn't turn into this macho guy and get upset that another man might find him attractive. So I thought that was good. But Tony is really worried. And at first I was like, well, is he worried because some guy likes him? But no, it's not that. He doesn't know what to do. Should he tell Elaine or not? And he also doesn't want to include Alex in this conundrum. Now, this part of the story is kind of silly, but I get it. It was like the writers were acknowledging that they've really fallen into a structure for these episodes, where everyone just goes to Alex with problems. Well, this time, Tony's gonna go to Louie, kind of. Really, Louie just sort of tricks him into dishing his secret to him. I'm not really sure why he was so interested in getting the secret, although he does end up monetizing it, as we find out later when Tony says he's not drinking at the bar because he gave all of his money to Louie. But despite Tony's best efforts, he's going to end up unloading his problem onto Alex. Now, he tries out a hypothetical on Bobby first, asking if Bobby were dating a girl that he really liked, and then that girl made a pass at Tony, would he want him to tell him? And Bobby just responds with a worried look on his face, how come you're asking me that? And then just sort of spirals after that and proceeds to say that he's gonna break up with his girlfriend over it. And what gets me is that Tony just never stops him. What the hell, Tony? Like, just tell him, no, it's not that. Then Tony is gonna go sit by himself at a table and try to figure this out. But Locke is gonna see him and he's gonna come over and ask if he's okay. But Tony doesn't even seem to notice him. Then we're gonna get a bit that just made me laugh repeatedly. Locke is gonna do an impression of Tony, and it's just, I wouldn't do it any justice to say it, so I'm just gonna say it was freaking great.
Well, I like to, but I don't have any money.
Oh, that's all right. You're my pal. Pals don't need no money. Have one on me.
Then Tony's gonna ask Locke if he knows anything about bisexuals. And then Locke is gonna describe what sounds like something they would do with bicycles in his country, saying that his country loves bisexuals. Then this joke sort of gets muddled when Tony's like, I'm not talking about bicycles, I'm talking about bisexuals. And then Locke is like, me too. So in his country, they tie up bisexuals to rocks when they're done with them? I don't know. It was very weird. Anyway, he unloads the problem on Alex. And Alex just basically says, you shouldn't tell Elaine. Kirk should tell Elaine. Somebody just needs to set him straight, as it were. But either way, Alex, even though he doesn't want to be a part of it, ends up getting roped in because Tony convinces him to go with him for moral support. So when Alex arrives at the meeting place, which is a gay bar apparently, only Kirk is there. Tony hasn't shown up yet, but Tony does eventually show up. Alex is feeling awkward and nervous being in a gay bar. And honestly, none of this actually felt super outdated because I think there are still a lot of straight men out there that would feel awkward in a gay bar, but not like out of malice, which is exactly what Alex is portraying. It's not like he's angry about being there or anything. He just feels nervous and awkward because he's never been to one. So Alex ends up deciding to broach the subject with Kirk on his own and not wait for Tony. But as he starts, Kirk is like, I already told Elaine I'm bisexual and I know Tony's not interested. So it's all good. So now Alex can just have fun, right? So this big guy comes over and starts trying to convince Alex to dance with him and then basically just forces him. Now Alex is going to try to dance his way out of the club, but ends up being danced back in. And by the time Tony shows up, he's dancing on the bar. And Tony's appalled. Not because of homophobia, but because how could you be dancing when poor Elaine is getting her heart broken? And as it turns out, Alex ended up getting a dancing trophy that night. So we're going to discover this in our outro, with Tony saying he doesn't care what Alex says. There's no way he'd have danced with that guy. But when Jim shows up, he wants to know how Alex got the trophy. And Alex is going to say he got it by being a jerk. Now, I didn't really understand this. What was Alex being a jerk about? Whatever they meant by it, I suppose it doesn't matter. Because it's a setup for Jim to say, why doesn't anybody ever tell me about these contests? But that's the whole episode. Let's see how it ranked.
A rank.
So the rank is where I rank the episode based on 5 categories: story, acting, dialogue, episode coherence, and character relatability. I rank it on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. And then I have a laugh counter where I tally up the amount of times the episode made me laugh. 1 point per laugh out loud gets added to the score. But before I dive into the rankings here, I just want to say if you're enjoying this episode, please leave a like down below. It really does help me out. But without further ado, the first category is story. So the story here is that Elaine, who is newly single, gets kind of sort of set up on a date with a guy who actually wants to date Tony. Tony's gonna find out and needs to figure out a way to break it to Elaine. I mean, it's a little convoluted, but certainly not the worst of stories. It does have kind of a strange arc, like they ran out of time. So they were just like, end it here, I guess. Anyway, I gave it a 3.75. So that brings us to acting. I wasn't super thrilled with the guy that played Kirk's acting. He was kind of weird and stiff, and it felt a little like they were trying to figure out how a bisexual man would act, instead of having a guy just sort of act like a human. Also, I thought Danny DeVito was off a bit in this one, but that's mostly quibbles. I gave it a 3.75. So that leads us to dialogue, and I really enjoyed this episode. This is one of those danger episodes that could be bad with an older show, but ended up being not bad at all. Ended up being really good. It was fun and playful and sweet and cute, and most importantly, funny. I gave it a 4.5. So that brings us to episode coherence. It ended really abruptly. It was just such an anticlimax. Alex goes to tell Kirk that he needs to tell Elaine about his attraction to Tony. Then it turns out he already did, so basically nothing to see here. And that ended up being the truth, I guess? It just felt so, I don't know, unsatisfying? Also, what was the point of Louis finding out that Kirk told Tony he was attracted to him? That just ended up feeling like a non sequitur. I suppose you could make the argument that it was so he had a reason for not drinking at the bar, but that wasn't really a central plot point or anything. Anyway, those are the two things that stand out to me. Not huge problems, so I gave it a 3.5. And that brings us to character relatability. Honestly, considering this could have been a really bad episode for this category, I found this to be pretty relatable. There was definitely some antiquated stuff, but for the most part, it really handled the topic well. I gave it a 4.75. All right, so some pretty decent scores here. A decent laugh counter will definitely keep it in the top 3 tiers, and it got me 15 times, which is a pretty high laugh counter, which means that the episode ended up at a 35.25, which puts it in the second tier, the Holy Grail. As for the series average, it moves up to a 26.86, keeping it in the mediocre tier. But I have to say, this season has been pretty good so far. And if you're ranking along with me, please write your scores down in the comments. I'd be curious to find out how we align. But thanks for listening and or watching. Check out my other taxi ranking episodes or any of my other sitcom ranking or movie ranking episodes on this channel. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. For up-to-date rankings, check out my website at therankpodcast.com, where you can also email me at john@therankpodcast.com. You can also become a patron at patreon.com/therankpodcast if you really want to support the show, but I will leave you with this. After everything, Tony still gave his blessing to Kirk and Elaine's relationship. Why? Because Kirk's a good bye.
Actually, that's not bad.
Alex goes to tell Kirk that he needs to tell... Cut! Alex goes to tell Kirk that he needs to tell Elaine about a... Cut! Alex goes to tell Kirk that he needs to tell... Oh, man.
That's okay. Take your time.